Okay, we're in Chapter 3, Section 1 of Barnett, Simple Interest. And we're going to take a look at some simple interest problems today. So that's our goals, is to be able to compute simple interest using the formula, as well as solve some simple interest investment problems. Okay, so why don't we take a look at the formula for simple interest. This formula is used to calculate the interest earned on some invested amount, some principal. So I here is the interest earned, P is the principal, R is your interest rate. This is always written as a decimal, even though it's a percentage. In the formula, when we use it, it's always written as a decimal. And T is the amount of time that goes on during the investment. Okay, so as the most basic of an example, find the interest on a boat loan of $5,000 at 16% interest for 8 months. So let's see, what is it that we know here and what is it that we're looking for? Well, we want the interest, so we're looking for I, okay, and we know that the boat loan was $5,000, so this was our P. This was the initial value. P was $5,000. It was borrowed at 16%, so that's the R, 16%, written as a decimal, that's 0.16, and this happened for 8 months. Now, time T is always given in years, so T in our case is 8 months, but really, that's 8/12 out of the year, right? Because 8 months out of 12, which gives us a year, is what we have. So this is 8 out of 12, which you could simplify by dividing by 4 to 2/3. Okay, so putting it all together, I is equal to P times R times T. The interest earned is going to be 5,000 multiplied by 0.16 multiplied by 2/3. Okay, so do that calculation and you should obtain the answer, which happens to be $533.33. Right, so once again we have 5,000, the P, multiplied by 0.16, that's our R, multiplied by 2/3, this is 2/3, the T. Okay, and 8 months is 8/12 out of the year, or 2/3. So that's how we obtain the answer there. But now be careful, this is just the interest, right? We calculated the interest. That is not the total amount to be paid back. The total amount to be paid back has to be the 5,000 that was borrowed, right? The boat loan of 5,000 plus the interest of $533.33. So altogether you would return $5,533.33. Okay, why don't we take a look at this formula again. This leads us to present value and future value, right? So remember, this is really your interest, I. When you add that to the principal, to what you have borrowed or what you have invested, depends on which side you're looking at it from. These two combined together, P plus I, is what really gives you the future value A, the amount or the future value. So because there's a P featured in both pieces of this formula, you could factor it out and you could rewrite the formula as A equals P times 1 plus RT. And once again, here's what each variable stands for. Let's put this to practice. Let's do an example. Find the total amount due on a loan of $600 at 16% interest at the end of 15 months. Okay, so once again, remember your formula. It's A equals P times 1 plus RT. Okay, so we want the total amount due. That's what we have to find. That's A. Okay, that's what we're looking for on this loan of 6,000. The loan of 600, excuse me, means that your P is 600, your principal. Okay, now you're borrowing this at 16% interest, which means R is 16% again, which is a decimal is 0.16. You always have to write it as a decimal. And you want to find this at the end of 15 months. So T here is 15 out of 12, right? Because T is always given in terms of years. 15 months is 15/12 of a year. So let's see, but both are divisible by 3. So this is really 5/4 of a year. Okay, so putting it all together using our formula and what we just found, right? P 600, we have multiplying that by 1 plus 0.16, that's the R, and that's our T of 5/4 or 1.25, and that gives us $720. So that's the total amount due if you borrow 600 given those conditions. 60% interest rate in a 15-month period. Okay, why don't we move forward, do another problem Your book talks about T-bills in this problem. So what is the annual interest rate earned by a 33-day T-bill worth a maturity value of $1,000 that sells for $996.16 now? Okay, so that's how T-bills works. You should read the book and focus on T-bills. They're explained in detail there. But here's how our formula is going to change. We once again use the same exact equation, A equals P times 1 plus RT. So let me write it here as well. But what's different now, the T-bill has a maturity value of 1,000. That means the future value is 1,000. That's the A. That's your A. Okay? What it sells for now, that's your P. That's the principal. That's the current value. Okay, so that's why, going back to this slide here, we have A equals 1,000, P equals 996.16. Also, it told you that this was a 33-day period. We take, when it comes to T-bills, we work with years again, and we work, because we have units as days here, 33 is written as out of 360, because there are 360 days for a financial year. Okay, so please remember that we normally use 360 days for a financial year. So that's why our T is 33 over 360, right? We were told that T is 33 days, okay, in the problem. That's how we obtain that answer. Well, R is what we're looking for, and all the algebra and arithmetic is done here for us. So 1,000 equals 996.16. They simplified this fraction here first on the slide. I'm not a big fan of that. I would probably keep that along for the ride, but it's not wrong to do it either way. And you see the arithmetic here. You could pause the video to focus on the arithmetic, and you'll see that at the end R is 0.042, which translates to 4.2%, which is the final answer. Okay, and the last type of examples that I wanted to show you was, here's another application. A department store charges 18.6% interest annual for overdue accounts. How much interest will be owed on a $180 account that is 3 months overdue? Okay, so same story here. The formula is I equals PRT. And as we read the problem, we notice 18.6% interest means that our R is 18.6%, which written as a decimal is 0.186. Right? That's 18.6% written as a decimal. Remember, percent simply means over 100. Okay, now how much will be owed on a 1080 account? Well, that just means that how much interest will be owed is telling you we're looking for I. On a $1,080 account is telling me that the present value is 1,080. Okay, and the account being 3 months overdue means that the time period is 3 months. But remember, the time is always given in years, so this is 3 out of 12, because 12 months make up a year, or 1/4. Or you could write 0.25. So putting it all together, the interest is P times R times T. We have found in the given that P is 1,080, the interest is 0.186, and the time period is 0.25. So we just need to carry out this multiplication, which is done on the next slide, and it gives us $50.22. So that's the interest that will be owed.